Hey everyone, Jeff at Tidy Bytes here. We have made it now to week 3 of email month. So for the first 2 weeks, first week was to archive everything. Second week was to unsubscribe without mercy. And hopefully now you've got a relatively clean slate to start from and less email coming in on a regular basis. So here in week 3, what we're going to do is start creating some personal organization. Thinking about what you have been receiving over the last few weeks, or longer if you can and want to, and putting it into a structure that makes sense for your use case. So the task for this week is to simplify your folders. Now, if you use a system like Gmail, just a caveat here, you don't actually have folders, you have labels. And they're treated a little bit differently. You can do certain things with labels that you can't do with folders. But for the purposes of this week, the task will be basically the same with just a few minor differences. Everyone approaches email organization a little bit differently. You're on something of a spectrum between zero organization, where all of your messages just live in your inbox forever and you never move them anywhere, even after you've dealt with them, and extreme organization, where you have folders or labels that are multiple levels deep and you've created a category for every conceivable kind of message you get from every subgroup of people that you correspond with. And the rest of us are just somewhere in the middle of that. Personally, I tend towards being more organized and creating more of a structure hierarchy rather than less. It's just the way my brain works. It is a time sink. It's really hard to stay on top of that and continue making it work well for you. It's usually not that hard to just create a single snapshot structure that works for you right now. Everything that you can see fits into the structure that you create, even if it's very detailed, multiple levels deep. You can do that once. But over time, the messages that you continue to get and the way your interests change and the people that you correspond with, maybe your job changes, your responsibilities, all of that stuff means the structure that you create at one time will probably not stay relevant for very long. And that means either it stops working for you or you have to maintain it by making changes on a regular basis. What still matters? What folders might I need to split into other folders? What subfolders might I be able to combine because I'm not getting those messages anymore? And further, it ignores the huge benefit that comes from using the search tool. Basically, every email provider or mail client that you might run on your computer or mobile device has built-in search, and it's usually very good. So if you are not taking advantage of the search tool, then you're putting all of this extra effort into trying to sort things in a way that feels logical to you and ignoring the reality that anytime you need to look up something, it's probably much faster to just type a little query into the search box and voila, you've got your messages in 5 seconds instead of having to drill down and remember which folder or label you assigned to it. Then for those of us who have zero organization and you just live out of the top of your inbox all the time, and there are 15,000 messages there that go back 2 decades, you're missing out on the intentional review process that would force you to choose what's worth keeping. After all, why bother sorting messages if you can just use the search tool and find what you need just like that? The reason is that when you allow your email to build up like that, you're sidestepping the natural opportunities to consider what matters and get rid of what doesn't. It's kind of like if you have a house that's full of mess, but you never address the mess because you always know where to go to find whatever you need. That's true, but you still have a mess. So whether you're on one extreme or the other or somewhere in the middle, the goal this week is to make whatever your situation is at least a little bit better. And to do that, I have 3 action steps for you. The first is to review the messages that you've received over the last 2 weeks, say. Hopefully you have a clean-ish inbox right now. But you can go back farther than that if you need. Just get an idea of what is actually coming in, the kinds of messages that you receive. Step 2 is to consider a small high level set of categories that could reasonably hold those messages. And ideally, you want to go not more than one level deep. So just a single level of structure. Sometimes it makes sense to go a little bit deeper than that, maybe one more level. For example, if you combine your work email and personal email in the same inbox, you might have a work folder that has its own subfolders in it that are relevant to work. That's all right. Or if you have a very large area of your life, for example, for me, Tidybytes is one of them. Under Tidybytes, I have a few additional subfolders to help subdivide that. But in most cases, try to avoid at least preemptively creating more than one layer of organization. And then the third step is to build out that structure of folders or labels if you're in Gmail or a similar platform, and move the messages that you have already read and processed from your inbox into those new folders. Now, you can go many different directions with this, and it's going to be subjective based on your own interests and needs, but I can give you a really quick rundown of the folders that I use as an example if you need some inspiration. So I have family, which is for all correspondence to and from family members. I have friends, which again, all correspondence to and from friends or acquaintances. They don't have to be a close friend to fit into that bucket. I have a folder for work, which is everything to and from coworkers and any, related to projects or administration in that space. Then I have a folder called orders, and that one gets everything that is a confirmation of an order or a payment of some kind. The actual transactional emails about where I spent money. Now, in that folder, I don't keep things like shipping confirmations or delivery confirmations because those are only useful for a very brief window of time. Then I have another folder called registration, which is anytime I sign up for something, if they send me important, unique account information, or, here's the link to access what you've signed up for, I will hang on to that in registration. And then I have a folder for banking and one for health. And then finally, I have a folder for Tidybytes and all you wonderful people. And in that folder, I have some subfolders, as I mentioned before. So those are my 8: family, friends, work, orders, registration, banking, health, and Tidybytes. You can have more or fewer. Just try to keep the quantity small. So, quick recap. The goal this week is to simplify your folders, and that's done with 3 actions. First is review messages that you've received over the last couple of weeks to see the kinds of things that you've got. Second action is to create a short list of high-level categories that are hopefully a dozen or less that can reasonably hold those messages. And then the third one is move the messages that are currently in your inbox that you've already read or processed into those folders. The hope is that at the end of this process, you'll have only a few messages left in your inbox. You know where they will go, whether that's into one of the folders you just created or into the trash. And all you have to do is finish processing them to get back to inbox 0. I hope everyone has fun with that, doesn't find it too challenging. Comment if you have any questions, and I will do my best to get back to you. And until then, I will see you next week.